Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Real Franchise, a video series designed to deliver real information, real answers, and real insights into franchising. The series is brought to you by James Home Services Australia. I'm the CEO, and Justin is one of our owners and our head of new businesses. Together, we tackle all of the big topics, unscripted, unplanned, and completely unfiltered. We go where others won't, without the sales and without the fluff. We just give you information straight up. Today's topic is an interesting one, and it follows on the back of our most recent video. Today, we're going to talk about obligations. And we're not talking about your obligations to us. We're talking about our obligations to you. When you come on board into a franchise network, or if you're thinking about it, if you're doing your research, then you'll probably by now be aware that a franchise is something that's managed by agreement. So when you onboard into a franchise network, the relationship between yourself as the franchisee and the franchisor or head office is one that is managed by a franchise agreement. And a franchise agreement, let's not mince our words, it's a legally binding contract on both parties. And there can be some hesitation to entering into any legally binding contract. There should always be lots of research and due diligence and legal advice sought before signing any contract, no matter what kind of contract it is. A franchise agreement, however, I want today, Justin, for us to kind of debunk the myth that this is a horrible, scary thing that's going to tie you up in legislation for the rest of your existence. Because actually, it's the opposite. A franchise agreement gives you certainty over what we will provide to you. So an agreement in anything in life is a great thing because it sets out the obligations of both parties to each other. And when it's set out and it's in writing and it's binding, you can be assured that those obligations are going to be delivered to you. So, Justin, what are the kind of obligations that we have to our franchisees? What are kind of some of the bigger ones? And maybe pick one and let's just dive in.
I think the biggest one, the great thing about the franchising industry, I might just rewind a little bit because you did right. There is this, I find, fear when I'm talking to people about a franchise agreement. However, all of us, when I got my first serious job and they sent me an employment contract, which specified the terms of my employment, which specified how much I was actually going to get paid, how much super they were going to. And I signed that. And the moment I signed it, I was like, I knew, like it was clear. It gave me security to go into that. I knew what they were going to do for me. And they were very clear in their job description of what I needed to do for them in return. And a franchise agreement is like that. However, there's a whole other big piece of legislation under it, which is called the Franchising Code of Conduct. And we may have discussed this in a previous episode. But so to answer your question, the first obligation, I think, is covered under the Code of Conduct, which says that both parties at all times must act in good faith to one another. So I think firstly, as a franchisor to someone looking to join a franchise, my obligation is to at all times act in good faith. And so what's in that contract, I think, clearly lists for both parties' security our obligations so that you know, just like your employment contract, you know what James is going to do for you. You know what you need to do. It's just very clear. It takes the grey out of it. You know, like if you didn't have that, well, who's doing the marketing? You know, who's going to pay to set up my webpage? Who's going to, all these myriad of questions you can have. Well, if you go to your franchise agreement, in James anyway, it's all very clearly laid out. And if you're looking at another franchise and it's not clear, well, if it's not specified, well, then it's on you, I would say, you know, the cost-wise. Because if someone's doing something for you, they should have it in there. Yep. So sorry, now to answer your question, Rhiannon, what are some of the main things that we do? Well, one of the first things that's talked about in there is training. So we have an obligation to provide training and quality training. So I know a lot of your time, Rhiannon, over the last couple of years has been really overhauling all of that. We've got 30 years in this industry, a lot of good things, but, we've been learning lots as we've started so many new businesses under our subscription model. And so that initial training, also the ongoing coaching, to me, these are some of the big things that I think we are way ahead of any other network in our industry, like the coaching support. And I know you've just totally overhauled our coaching. And even for our coaches now, it's very clear on the preparation before meetings and the sorts of things that they are helping people with. And, our computer systems just give so much valuable information now, data, so that we're managing by data. It's very clear to see, because we can think we're doing certain things or certain things are happening in our businesses, but numbers don't lie. And so we've got actual really good stuff. So our obligations, I think, initially for someone coming in, first things, training.
Yeah, it really is. Everything in life is an exchange. And in an exchange, it's got to always be even, or at least both parties have to perceive they're getting equal value out of that exchange. And so a franchise agreement is just a document that documents the exchange that needs to happen between the franchisee and us as the franchisor or the head office team. And so there are kind of 4 key things I really think that are our main obligations. One is that initial training that we provide, that is, to get the wheels moving and to make sure that people can commence trading in their business. The second thing is the ongoing coaching and training. And I do want to spend a little bit of time diving into that more, because I honestly think we do this better than anybody else in the network, in the industry right now. The third thing that we are obligated to do for you is marketing. And I want to talk about that in more detail too in this episode, because that's a huge obligation. You mentioned before the franchising code of conduct, and there's lots of guidance in the franchising code of conduct around how we must market for businesses and how we must undertake those activities. And then the fourth thing, you already mentioned it, and it is, acting in good faith at all times. And both of us have that obligation. But for me, also, I think our network goes one step beyond that. And I would say that we almost have our own code of conduct when it comes to how morally and ethically do we behave as a franchise network. And I want to dive into that a little bit more too. So let's go back to that ongoing coaching and training. And just in a couple of minutes, I wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit more about what we do to make sure we are maintaining our obligations to our franchisees. Basically, the franchise agreement says that we can't not help you. If you come to us and seek help, support, guidance, hand-holding, a pat on the back or a nudge in the right direction, we can't not do that. At all times, we must be prepared, willing, and able to support you in operating your business in our network. So we can't leave you out there swimming on your own, trying not to go under. That we can't do that. And if you're listening to this and you're in a franchise network and you're not getting that support, well, I'm really hopeful that your franchise agreement actually gives you the same rights as our franchise agreement gives our franchisees. Because our franchise agreement basically says we can't leave you out there drowning. We have to support you. Now, our goal, if we're to kind of slip ahead a little bit into kind of more those moral and ethical obligations that we impose on ourselves, we don't want you to get to a point where you're drowning. We don't even want to get you to a point where you feel like you need to put your hand in the air for help, because our goal with our ongoing training and support is at all times to be proactive. So that means that the data we use to assess your business's health and performance, that we're a step ahead all of the time. And if something starts going off in your business, if your performance starts slipping, we can see that. not to haul you over the coals and say, oh my goodness, you didn't make $2,000 this week, but instead to reach out and say, hey, are you aware that your income for the last couple of weeks has started to decline? Is there something happening in your world that we're not aware of that makes that what it is? Can we assist you further? So we really try and be super proactive when it comes to the way that we're supporting our franchisees ongoing, because it's our obligation, but because we also want to go that step further, and we want to make sure that at all times we're acting morally and ethically, and that we don't get to a point where you're drowning. That support is there all of the time. And in fact, our business coaches are going to be on the front foot with you. They're going to be reaching out to set up meetings. They're going to be making a tailored coaching and ongoing training plan with you to help you get to your goals. We go a step beyond in this network, and we actually help you set goals that aren't just business goals, but that are business goals that help you to use your business as a vehicle to achieve personal goals. Now, I don't know of any other franchise network that does that, because it's kind of grey area, right? Oh, is that our responsibility to help with that? Well, I don't think that people get into a business without wanting their business to fuel their personal life and their personal goals and their personal aspirations in life. So we join those two dots together. The other thing that we do that I wanted to touch on, unless you had something to add to that particular piece of the conversation.
No, I just think our obligations. Yeah, you go ahead. Sorry. Yes.
The next thing I wanted to touch on was marketing. And I mean, jump in, please, if you wish, but I am a self-proclaimed marketing nerd and I love the marketing space. So I'm more than happy to talk to what we do in a marketing space. The Franchising Code of Conduct actually sets out a lot of guidelines for franchisors, and it says that if you operate a marketing fund, you can only spend that on marketing activities that will generate leads for your franchisees. Now, let me rewind. A marketing fund is when you pay a portion of your franchise fees as a marketing levy. That means, and this will be displayed in your franchise agreement, it's very clearly set out in ours, what portion of your franchise fees are a marketing levy and how they're to be spent. Now, a marketing levy is not actually money that is available to the franchisor to spend on operation or overheads or resourcing or staff. The marketing levy can only be spent by the franchisor on marketing activities that are it's reasonably likely that those activities will generate leads, customer leads for our franchisees. So in our network, what that means is that we operate a company that sits alongside James Home Services Australia, and it's the marketing arm of the company. And your money that you pay as a marketing levy is transferred into that company, and it's that company that manages the marketing. Now, it's still us that manages the marketing. The company isn't owned by anybody else. It's not managed by anybody else. It's managed by us. But transferring the money to the company means that it's really straight up and down. It's completely black and white. If we're ever audited, we are so far above board, it's not even funny. We just hand over our financials and say basically every single cent is spent on marketing plus some. Because what we do in our network is we actually spend more than what your marketing levy pays into that company on marketing activities. Every year we would spend at least 20 to 30, sometimes more % on marketing activities to make sure we're generating leads for our franchisees, because it's such an important arm. And that is all secured by your franchise agreement. So again, the franchise agreement doesn't have to be a scary thing. It doesn't have to feel overwhelming, and it's definitely not all in favor of the franchisor. It is an even exchange. Your franchise fees purchase you the right to expect that we will deliver certain things for you, and the marketing is one of those things.
Yep. And to me, that's one of the biggest arguments for joining franchise like us, because you just said it, you're a marketing nerd, right? I'm not. And like before James, I used to run a big enterprise, and it was in the agricultural sector, and we had no idea about marketing and the money we used to throw at stuff. And I brought that knowledge to my James business. And back in the old days, before our ownership, we used to look after our own local marketing. And I wasted over a decade, like it would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars if I sat down and added it up. you know. We weren't getting results. I was tearing my hair out. You might remember, Rhiannon, when you first started working for us, because it just wasn't getting results. And because so much has moved in things like Facebook and YouTube and Google and you've got to have stuff set up right so that you get rankings, so that the right people see it, and all this sort of stuff that is way above. You need a marketing nerd like Rhiannon to come along to get the best results out of those dollars. And so I want to encourage anyone who's looking, that's one of the huge pluses of a network like ours, because we do have great people in our marketing. We've got yourself, we've got Sam, we've got, the other organisations and people we work with who at the moment are doing a sensational job on our marketing. And you don't have to rely, like I used to, on my limited knowledge. And I think it's a fantastic, security in that franchise agreement. They're great. I often say to people, we do the paid advertising, right? I don't know of any franchisees in our network at the moment that are paying extra to do other extra marketing, right? You can, you're in more than that, so long as you're using the right, logos and things like that. And, Rhiannon and the team are here to assist with that if you want to spend extra. So you can still use their expertise, but I just think it's an obligation we go once again above and beyond to fulfill, and it just delivers so much value to us as business owners, having some experts doing that.
Yeah. I love marketing. It's a beautiful blend of psychology and business and numbers. Numbers is what really excites me about marketing, because I gamify it for myself and for anybody in our team who's involved in delivering on our marketing, our arm of the business. And I can tell you down to the cent how much it's costing me to generate an interior cleaning interior cleaning lead, customer lead at the moment. I can tell you down to the cent. It's the lowest it's ever been in this network before. And I can tell you down to the cent how much it costs me to generate a lawn and garden care customer inquiry lead. And again, it's the lowest it's ever been before. And it's the lowest because we keep refining our strategy. And there are elements of our marketing that we work with external experts for. And so the strategy is guided internally, but there are external experts that do the implementing. And we are in contact with those people. I don't know, this week alone, I reckon we've probably exchanged 6 or 7 emails, and we've got a meeting set up for tomorrow as well. And that's normal. We are constantly working on this. So above and beyond the fact that we only will spend your advertising levy on generating leads in your businesses, we also throw so much time that we don't account for at making sure we are getting the best possible marketing outcomes we can.
Yes.
We missed a huge obligation, an enormous one. I can't believe the both of us made this oversight. I said before there were 4. There's not. There's 5. There is the biggest one that is the whole foundation of the entire franchise agreement. We are obligated to provide IP. Now, I'm going to simplify that down because IP means nothing to most of us. IP stands for intellectual property, but in a really practical sense, all IP is when you sign a franchise agreement, we give you access to our brand, our reputation, how we look, to our website, to our systems, to our processes, to the way we do things. Everything about how a James business operates is provided to you. There's no closed doors. There's no secrets. We don't gatekeep any information. Your franchise agreement means we are obligated to provide to you a system. And it is that system that we've spoken about so many times in these videos, that it's the system that when implemented works. There is not an example in our network of someone who's followed our system and who's not had a successful outcome in their business. So the biggest obligation of all is that we give you completely unfiltered access to our system. What that also means is you get completely uncapped access to your business coach to teach you how to implement the system.
Yep.
It's one of the most important things, and I can't believe that we missed it out. The last thing, however, that I just want to talk about quickly before we wrap this episode up is you and I both have a very strong feeling toward the moral and ethical obligations that we have to business owners in our network. And this isn't written into the franchise agreement. This isn't written into the code of conduct, other than that we at all times have to act in good faith towards one another. Do you want to talk for just a little minute about what do we mean when we say we have moral and ethical obligations to our franchisees, and how do we allow that to guide us and our decision making in this network and where we're taking it?
It's a big question, and I think it's another thing that really, in my opinion, separates us from other organisations. In our initial information session, when I'm talking to people, I talk about what we market is gold medal service to our customers, and I say to everyone that, I guarantee you, if you join James, that our team from head office will give you gold medal service. And there's 4 key things that to us gold medal service means. It's about being prompt, professional, and friendly. But the foundation of the whole lot, and this is what we're talking about here, the foundation of the whole lot is that at all times we act honestly and with integrity. And, yes, we're a business, but this business is made up of families right across this country. We've got 400 essentially different families every month inquiring potentially to join us. And I know our whole team at head office take that really seriously, that the livelihood, the financial futures really of so many families are based on decisions we make, on how we operate. And so it's out of that how we deal with people, I think, needs to come, And yes, there's an agreement. And yes, there's things at times that, can be tough. But at all times, it's about acting honestly and with integrity, and which is in good faith to one another. And it needs to be a two-way street, like we try at all times. And so I know you and I both at times will make decisions that in a pure commercial sense, you might go, oh, that's not the right reason. But there's more than just commercial values going on here. You're dealing with people's lives, and just this year, there's so many, people, you get curveballs coming, and some people just get really tough things dealt to them that are outside of their control. And it's just helping people navigate through those, and so we take that. I know you and I both take that very seriously. That's what I think you talk about. Our moral compass is what steers the ship.
It really is. There's no question about that. The hard decisions are made with that moral compass first and foremost. The financial acumen and the business acumen are important, but mostly secondary to that moral compass. There's a lot of talk in the franchising industry. In fact, there's a lot of talk about the franchising industry and how, there's always the horror stories. There's always those stories being shared, and there's always the media covering those stories and sharing that information out to the public. And, when something bad happens, it should be talked about. The company at the middle of that, if it's legitimate and if they've made some pretty poor choices, then, yep, okay, you kind of deserve to be talked about. But at all times, we want to make sure that we are never, ever the centre of those kinds of stories. In fact, the opposite. I'm happy for us never to be covered in the media if it means that means we're doing something right. There's never a reason that the media would think that maybe our brand would sell them some stories. It is so important to us that we are guided by that moral compass. And, in a really practical sense, sometimes it means that when things get hard for people, we are making decisions about how we support them that doesn't make commercial sense. We're making decisions about, and we're doing more. We roll up our sleeves, and all of a sudden we're providing guidance on navigating life sometimes, which is such a grey area and absolutely not our responsibility as per the franchise agreement. But we're people and so are our franchisees. And at the end of the day, I want us to lead a franchise network that cares about the people in our care, because those people have made one of the biggest decisions of their life to join our network. I take that seriously. That's significant to me. And also I want to make sure that each night when I put my head on my pillow, I know that I've done the best that I could in that day to support the people who have invested in us and who are supporting our network and our brand. It's really important to me. And I know that it is really important to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on that note, a quick recap. Franchise agreement is not a scary thing. All it does is it documents the equal exchange, and it makes sure that as a franchisee, our obligations to you are written down. We can't escape them. We can't get out of them. We can't not deliver on those things, and those things are your initial training, your ongoing training and support, your marketing. For us, it is about morals and ethics and operating with honesty and integrity at all times. And then obviously the fundamental obligation of all is to give you completely unlimited access to our system. And it's the system that, when implemented in our network, brings success. So don't fear the franchise agreement, embrace it. If you're thinking about a franchise network, but you're a little concerned about entering into a legal agreement, that's totally okay. And Justin, in his role, is there to answer your questions and there to step you through anything in our agreement that is confusing or you don't understand. And the other thing that you absolutely should do when entering into any agreement in life is go and get legal advice. At all times, go and get legal advice, because those people will act absolutely in your favour and impartially. Yes?
Can I just add something into that? Absolutely.
Yeah,
get legal advice. Can I add a little bit more to that? Get legal advice from a lawyer or solicitor who has experience in franchising.
Yeah.
Because so often over the last 15 years, I've had feedback from legal advice who have no idea about franchising.
We've seen some shocking advice, haven't we?
Yeah, and it's just like, oh my goodness, the code of conduct, and they had no idea. Anyway, go see someone who has some experience in franchising, because then for them, and I've had this so often, the feedback is, yep, this is a standard franchise agreement. These are the key points. Bang, bang, bang. You need to understand this, this, this. That's what a good lawyer with franchising experience will give you. Yeah.
They will know what to be looking for in our agreement, and they will know what to draw your attention to. And to be honest, it's stuff that we're going to draw your attention to throughout our information process anyway, because, operating with honesty and integrity, we draw your attention to the sticky stuff. We draw your attention to the stuff that, it is really clear about what happens between both parties. We'll make sure that you're aware of that, but ask those questions and to an experienced legal advisor. I have had a couple of comments from lawyers who have acted for us, our company. A couple of times I've been told that our franchise agreement is very fair. It's far too lenient and requires a lot of tightening. And I have refuted their advice on both occasions, because I really like that our franchise agreement is simple, it is fair, it does give options to both parties, and it is very clear as to what obligations are for both sides. But as always in life, you should go and get your own legal advice, and great advice to get it from somebody who has experience in franchising. Yes. On that note, let's leave this episode here. If you enjoyed it, then leave us a comment or a thumbs up. That would be lovely. Or if you've got a topic that you'd like us to tackle, unscripted and unfiltered, then throw it in the comments below so that we can talk about it. We'd love to. Until next time, thank you for joining us on another episode of The Real Franchise.